Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today is Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. The first flea market finds pick video of this year. This is actually going to be stuff that I picked mostly the tail end of December. One of the items I think I picked on New Year's Day, and then I don't remember exactly when I did the other estate. So I got just a couple of items I picked from a local seller. He had some stuff. I went down, took a look at it, and only made a deal on a couple of things. And then I went out to an estate in Medford, Massachusetts, which was about a 40-minute drive. And I bought a decent-sized load of stuff there. So let's jump right in. We're going to start with just this couple of items. I got an interesting height gauge I want to show you guys. Really try and limit my purchases when it comes to these vintage older height gauges. I've got a couple of them now. They're not easy to sell. I've got a Steret. Probably could sell that one. I actually haven't even advertised it yet, but I featured that one a couple weeks ago. Well, went down and looked at this gentleman's stuff, and he had some stuff that was decent. A lot of older micrometers though that I wasn't going to be able to really do anything with as far as resale. But this height gauge caught my eye, and I decided to put some coin down on this. I think I ended up paying $40 for this. This is marked on the box, American Measuring Instruments Corp, New York, New York, USA. This intrigues me because I have not been able to find any information about this company, nor have I been able to find another height gauge or anything else for that matter that was made by this company. So kind of interesting. Definitely looks like it's got some serious age to it. I also want to point out that it wasn't apparently the most literate of machinists who had been using this, because he spelled height H-I-G-H-T. Actually, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, that sure looks like he tried to do H-I-G-H-T, and he put the dot above the G, which is interesting. He also used the spelling of G-U-A-G-E for gauge, which is also kind of, you know. Okay, so before anybody jumps down my throat in the comments, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, this is the preferred spelling for the word gauge when it comes to a device for measurement. So G-A-G-E, which I see often, is also acceptable, but Merriam-Webster goes as far as to say that this is the preferred spelling. Preferred by whoever has that extra vowel they want to get rid of. So, let's take a look at this gauge. You know, at first look, it doesn't look that spectacular or different than any of the other height gauges that I've come across. It's clean as a whistle. It also has a very nice finish on the base and this part right here. So it's interesting. I mean, it almost looks as if somebody restored this, and I have no way of knowing whether or not this was, you know, a total restoration done by somebody or what. What I can tell you is, and what caught my eye is, there's some scratches on the bottom there, I don't know what that's all about, is the bottom is a mirror, almost a mirror finish. It's not really coming through. Lighting's not so great right here, but very, very nice, almost lapped finish on the bottom there. It is definitely a American Measuring Instruments Corp height gauge. In case somebody, you know, might think that this is just another one that's stuck in the box. That is evident by the fact that it's marked over here. So it's clearly marked AMIC, AMIC, which would stand for the American Measuring Instruments Corporation. Also, he had this device right here, and he actually, I said that I thought it was really cool and interesting, and before I could make an offer on it, he actually gave it to me. So this is a freebie. So let me put this gauge away. So as far as this gauge goes, I probably will offer it up for sale. But, you know, I'd be surprised if anybody falls in love with it the way I did, enough to pay me, you know, like 50 bucks for it even. Which is a shame, I think. But, hey, that's just the way I feel about it. I'm probably going to die with this thing. So let's take a better look at this freebie right here that so intrigued me. It looked kind of familiar to me. I had remembered seeing something like it. I even thought maybe I had something similar to it. I didn't notice it when I was there, but now I can clearly see that it's actually marked right here that it's an LS Steret. It looks like an old, looks like it's a pretty old version of the logo on there. So it reminds me of like trammel points, but it's really small. This rod is only 4 inches. And so I checked in the catalog, and sure enough, the C251 series were the trammel points on the rod. Steel beam trammels, they call these. But I noticed that these are in 10.5 to 20 inches long. So I realized, well, then that can't be what this is. And it isn't. This is actually something much neater. Much harder to find. You have to go back to my old Steret catalog, and we find, in here we find the Steret Universal Divider and Beam Compass, number 89. That's history, pal. And it, down here it says that the 89A is the tool with the 4-inch beam and cone center. So we've got this cone center that's missing. This little piece right here is missing, and it'll probably never ever be seen again. In addition, there were other variations. So for instance, you could get the 89S didn't come with the cone center. So my first thought was, oh, okay, maybe that's what it is, an 89S. But then it goes on to explain that no, the 89S didn't come with the cone center, but it came with 89D in place of the bent arm. And then down here, 89D is an extra straight point and socket. So this bent leg would have been straight. I have the bent leg, so I think what I've got is I've got the 89A missing the cone center. Overpaying for that height gauge, I may be redeemed, because this actually is a nice little collectible. I only found one of these that has sold on eBay recently, and it actually was completely in pieces. They had this piece, the beam, this piece, but then a couple of other little tchotchkes in a box, and it had 11 bids and brought $63. So I have no reason to believe that this, even though it didn't have as many little extras with it, might still bring north of 30 bucks on eBay. The reason why this looked so familiar to me, or why I thought I had one of these, is because I have this thing that I picked up quite a while back and never ever figured out what it was. And this is a little bit of a horse of a different color. I just figured I'd show it again, because some of you might not have. Shame on you if you don't watch every single one of my pick videos. But anyways, let me give you a better look at this. So this is a bit of a conundrum as to who makes this. I can't find any markings on it. It definitely looks like it's early, and it definitely looks like another one of these circle compasses. So you can see where this would be really handy for scribing a nice little circle. That is a sharp scribe point on there. The other thing that's cool as heck about this one, that this one, you know, does differently, is you notice there doesn't appear to be a fine adjustment on this one. Whereas on this one, we've got this little fine adjust right here. right? On this one, there's a threaded rod internal to the beam. And this little knob on the end here actually adjusts it. So when I loosen this, this doesn't want to move. That's because you adjust that with this. So when I'm turning this, there you go, you can actually see it moving. How cool is that? I think it's cool. And then this is your course adjustment here. So that is too cool for school. So I was just getting ready to put these away, and I looked at this under magnification again, and I don't know if I had seen this before and just forgot, but this actually is marked. It's marked brown and sharp, but there's no numbers on it. And I searched high and low on the internet, and I can't find another one, so I have no idea what the model number would have been on these things. I have a brown and sharp tool catalog, but my tool catalog's from '93. It's nowhere near old enough for something like this. This would have been a, an early drafting tool. So, all right, moving on. Next up, we get a few odds and ends here. Maybe a little housekeeping. These are small items I picked up here and there. This, I actually bought this a while back. I don't even remember now where I bought this from. And I had it wrapped up in this bag so that I wouldn't lose all the little bits that came with it. And totally forgot about it. And it's been laying here off to the side. And I picked it up. Actually, it was actually up in the house. Never even made it down here to the basement. So that's why it should have been included in some flea market I found a while back, and I completely missed it. So what this is, for those of you who do not recognize it, this is what's called an impact driver. The way this works is this has a scroll internally inside here, and what happens is when this is pushed in, it's actually, you strike it with a hammer. What happens is not only does this point get driven down into the screw head or fastener that you're trying to remove, but it also has a twisting action. So it's for breaking free screws that are rusted. So it comes with several bits, different size tips. A couple of these look newer. I don't know, but I have one of these now, and it's an old cheapie. It's an old import, probably made in China or made in Taiwan deal that I picked up like way back in the, I want to say probably back in the 90s, and it served me well actually. A few times I've needed to use it. I've beat on it. It hasn't broken yet, but I came across this one, and I'm sure, being the kind of deal scrounger I am, I wouldn't buy another one unless I got it for like probably $5 or something like that. But what caught my eye on this one is that this is a Craftsman one. It says there's a small 9 with a number under it, with a line under it, and then 47641, and then a plus sign. So I'm not sure if the full part number is a 947641 or what, but it's made in the US of A. So, I'm a fan of good old steel, and this appears to be working fine. I can feel the cam action when I push on it. It's spring loaded and everything. So I figure there's no harm in having another one of these in case mine, my Taiwan one decides to give up the ghost or whatever. These two items here are from the used tool store. This was on the junk table. Items were down to $2 a piece, and I spotted this. This is a replacement clamp for like a battery charger or something along those lines. It's rated for up to 400 amps. So, they call it a booster cable clamp. So jumper cables, maybe, whatever. But it's an all metal one. Got a coating on it by the looks of it of some type. And it's made by Cal Van Tools. And what I liked about it, it's a model 558B, but what I liked about it is it's made in the USA. So I figured, you know, I've got my old battery charger that's all beat to hell, and I'm going to have to do a facelift on it at some point. And maybe this will come in handy. I only wish he had the red one there to go with it. That would have been nice to have a matched pair, but no big deal. That was worth $2 to me, and I might not have even have bought that, except that I ended up seeing this little surface gauge that he's had there for a little while, and he had $15 on it, and it had been out for a few weeks, and he never budges on price until he's had something for a while. So rather than grind him on the price on this little surface gauge directly, I said, you know, I asked him if that's been out for a while. I knew it had been, and he said yeah. And I said I got this off the bargain table. Would you take 15 for the 2? And he said yeah. So I got this for I figured I was going to pay 2 for this anyway. So I figure I'm into this for $13. It's a cute little stand. It is Steret. It's clearly marked. It's in great shape, and it's even got the snug for the scriber. So the only thing this is missing is the scriber. So it's fairly complete, and like I said, it's in pretty decent shape for the age, and it's a really little one. So that would make this a I forgot what model number that would make this. But here's the thing: this is one of the ones that's early enough that they didn't put the part number on it. And it's marked patent date March 17th, 1897. So that's a little bit more of a collectible one there. So I think probably on eBay I'll be able to flip this and make a few bucks. Yeah, I'd say so. There's one, identical, listed the same way, 1897 patent date. Yep, that's the same exact one as this one. Only this one is missing the upper rod and the snug, and this actually is sold. This isn't pie in the sky asking. This actually sold for $30, and somebody paid $5.45 shipping on top of that. So basically $35 shipped. Not bad. These two items I picked up just this past weekend. The local small antique store in town had advertised on Facebook that they were, I guess, closing their doors or selling off all their inventory. And we're inviting people to come down and take a look. And my son and I, we were on our way home, and I almost didn't stop. And it was funny because he actually suggested I take a look just to see if there's anything. And sure enough, we went in there, and I'm looking around, and it's the usual stuff that I've seen in there for like ever. Not a lot of churn on inventory in that store. And I happened to go to the back there, and there was some shelves with a bunch of junk on them, and I happened to pull out a tray to see what was on it, and I spotted this, and I was like, oh, a Mitutoyo box, great. And then I opened it up, and I was like, yeah, empty, and foam cancer. So I was like, oh, well, that's a shame. And then it occurred to me, wait a minute, I bet you I'm going to get this for $1. Probably could have got it for 50 cents, but it was worth $1 to me. So anyways, look at that foam, how it just like completely collapses and doesn't spring back. Anywho, I figured, hey, you know what? I'll offer $1 for this. Matter of fact, I didn't even ask how much this was. I just took the $1 out and said, would you take $1 for this? And he said, yeah. And the reason why I figured it was a good buy was because I remembered that I had just recently acquired this model 102-124 nice little Mitutoyo 0 to 1 inch. It's a nice little mic, 10th micrometer, and it's clean as a whistle, and it works pretty good, you know, pretty well, except for the engraving there. But now I have a home for that, so just gotta get rid of that horrible foam. And then the only other item I spotted was this this Eagle oil can. And those of you who watch my channel regularly know I have some sort of mental illness that makes me buy these whenever I can get them cheap. So this has a price tag on the bottom that is so faded because it's been on there so long that I couldn't see the price when I was in the store. The lighting wasn't that great in there. I can now just make out what it says. But anyways, another telltale sign that he's held on to this way too long because he probably had too high of a price on it. So See if I can make it out just for laughs. Yeah, brass oil can, $30. And the thing about this is, okay, it's got some pretty bad dents on this ring on the bottom, so it does this. So I pointed that out to him because when I asked him how much, of course he looked at it and he wanted to see what the name was on it, and he was going to start, you know, and I didn't even want to go with that. So I pointed it out to him. I said, you know, it doesn't stand up anymore. It's dented up. And I said, you take $5 for it? And he said, yeah. So I got this for $5. And I think, I might be wrong, but I think I might be able to make some very careful, gentle bashes on this ring right here and might be able to cure this problem. Right there is the high spot, so, and that makes sense because that's right where it wants to tip towards when I hit this thing. So alright, so what I did was I took the nozzle off to kind of get it out of my way. I took the cap off and I clamped it in the jaws of my vise with the dented inside facing up so that I could get to it, and then I used this brass punch, my brass hammer, and I ended up knocking that out. Actually, just noticed there's a high spot here on this too. If I wanted to get finicky, I guess I could whack that out too, but this is the spot that was high that was causing it to fall over, and it's a lot more stable now. Let's see if with the weight of with the nozzle screwed back in, whether or not that added weight poses an issue. You know, still not that great, but that's like pretty much one of the reasons probably why they came out with the version that has the wide ring on the base, is because that was probably like, after years they were like, hey, you know what we get a lot of complaints about? This thing falling over. Still almost like a low spot there. Don't want to be beating on it too much, just going to make things worse. Very clean inside. There's no residual oil in there, which is kind of surprising to me. I wonder if it's possible this thing was never used and it just sat around getting beaten up all these years. And this little metal piece right here is what was rattling around the side, and I just left it in there because I haven't decided yet whether or not it belongs to this. It is brass. It's got the same patina on it too, so it almost looks like maybe it does belong to this, but I don't know what the heck it might be. One of these days I'll take apart my other ones to clean them up and service them, and maybe I'll find one of those brass pieces in there and installed in where it's supposed to be, and that'll be the dead giveaway. Oh, I did tap out that other dent. Of course, the problem is that the process of tapping that dent out tends to thin out this rolled edge. You know, I mentioned that I thought that this might be an earlier one because of the fact that it doesn't have the wider base to keep it from tipping. You would think that'd be an improvement they brought along later. I just noticed on the bottom here, this actually says patent applied for. So I would think that that is a pretty early one, just because it has that patent applied for on there, as opposed to having an actual patent number or patent date or anything like that. Oh, in case anybody's wondering, it looks like that brings the total to 6. I now have 6 Eagle oil cans. Well, 6 brass Eagle oil cans. I think I might have a 7th one that's zinc coated or something like that. Anyways.